All of these vintage cameras have a common problem. You can't get the batteries needed for the light meter to work. Yashica Electro 35, Nikkormat FTN, Canon AE1, all iconic cameras of their time. For Nikkormat, we need PX625, mercury battery, not made anymore. It's not environmentally acceptable, nobody makes it, nobody sells it. For Canon AE1, we need 4LR44, very hard to get. You can get it, but you have to wait a long time and pay a lot of money for it. For Yashica Electro 35, we need PX32, quite a large battery, can't get it at all. So what are we supposed to do? Here we tell you everything you need to know to make them all work perfectly good. Cameras such as the Nikkormat FTN and Canon Edge and many more, as well as smaller devices such as these beautiful vintage light meters, used the problematic PX625 mercury batteries. Usually there's a housing with something like this, which you're supposed to open with a coin. Now here's a tip for you. The coins which are faceted seem to be easier to use, almost like a real screwdriver rather than the full round ones. So we just open this one. Find that there's a button style battery with the positive side up. That's usually the case, not always. And if you remove it, find that there's a housing. And sometimes the lid is part of the electrical connection and sometimes it isn't. The housing can vary considerably between devices, cameras, light meters, many other things. Now the important thing is that these batteries of course have two sides, a positive side and a negative side. The perimeter is part of the positive side. The negative side is only the middle bit here. So all these chambers have to do is to make a contact with the negative side and some kind of contact with the positive side. And that varies considerably from device to device. Each one of them has invented a new way of doing it. So that's all you have to be conscious of. Anyway, we need something that's this shape, one way or another, with a connection point to your device, the two contacts. Now, if this shape is not right, it's not wide enough, it rattles around and sometimes loses contact with one or the other point. So it's important to try to get whatever battery you have to the same diameter and the same thickness. That is number one priority. The next thing is to get the voltage as close as possible to the PX625, which was 1.35. Now that's a little bit hard, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do. Anyway, this is how this one works. Get rid of that one. In cameras such as Nikkormat and many others like it, there is one of these, a door that you open. In the case of Nikkormat, as is often the case with Nikon, it opens the wrong way around. So you turn it to the right to open, quarter turn, and then you hope like hell that it'll come out. Sometimes it doesn't. Don't force it. Don't think that you haven't got to the end of it and you have to turn it even more. It's a quarter turn, it's not a screw. So what you have to do is once you do the quarter turn and it doesn't go anymore, you stop there, you try to pull it off. You can use very strong sticky tape and stick it and then pull it off. You can use a suction cup or do anything, but don't damage it. It's possible that the previous battery is exploded or anyway, it's fused together, but don't force it. By forcing it, you're not achieving anything. You can try to rattle it a little bit left and right with very small devices, and that might loosen the edges. This very camera was stuck and it took a long time to open it up. On this occasion, what we had to do was to inject lighter fluid in those grooves and let it sit there for a while and then inject even more and more and more until it loosened up. Anyway, that's just a tip. For Some devices like this beautiful Canon AE1, they have slightly more sophisticated systems where you pull this out and it's sideways, see? And there's a tab here, you pull it off and the battery comes out there. So you have to be sure that the contacts are working. Sometimes, but not always, there's no visible sign that the camera takes one of those problematic PX625 batteries. On this occasion, with this beautiful Rollei 35, you have to open the back, and in the chamber inside towards the top there is a cap. You have to undo the cap and it will be there. Here, there, you have to unscrew that, take it out, and there's one chamber for one of those PX625s. So the question is, where do we get the batteries? That's why you're here. Here's the PX625 that we're trying to match. So we put it over here and go through the options. Option number 1. We can now get 625 size batteries, which are alkaline, not mercury. And these are only sold online. You have to search for them as such. Put in the number 625, don't worry about the rest of it, and say alkaline. A few options come up, you can order them. They're nearly all made in China or Hong Kong. While you're at it, get a whole batch of them. Okay, problem. The voltage is not exactly right. 1.35 for PX625 we're trying to match, and this is 1.5. So usually the meter will not be accurate, but usually it's not accurate, it's inaccurate to the same amount every time. So you can make a note of it, compare it with Sekonic or any other light meter or a digital camera or something like that, and make a mental adjustment. In our situation, we usually overexpose by 1 or 2 stops to compensate for this voltage increase. Option 2. Do it yourself. Create an adapter for a smaller battery that can be easily found to replace this one. 2 options for that: LR44 or 675. Alkaline, zinc air. These are very common. They happen to be the same thickness. So what we want is to increase the diameter of that to the same diameter as that, so it doesn't slosh around inside the chamber. That's the intention. So let's have a look at this. This one is about 11 millimeters. This one is about 14 millimeters. The difference is about 3 millimeters. So what we want is 3 divided by 2, 1.5, some ring of 1.5 millimeters thickness to go around it. That can't be so hard. A couple of options are available. One is, people actually thought of that and they sell you this kind of plastic adapter. Costs nothing, it comes in a variety of sizes. You just put those around this and they become the same diameter as that. This one is not actually for that, it's for a different kind of battery, but you get the idea. You can get a variety of those. But look, you can even find that as a washer, as a tap washer in a hardware store. What you do is to take one of these with you to the hardware store, and if available, take one of your LR44s as well, and try to put all the different washers around this one until it becomes the same size as that. Or slightly less, not more, because otherwise it doesn't fit into the chamber. So that's one option. If that doesn't work, your hardware store doesn't have any ring type thing to suit, okay, get one of those disc washers, which are a bit bigger, and use one of these scalpels to cut a bigger hole in it. Do it neatly. That'll work as well. It doesn't have to be pretty. all it has to do is to get to that diameter. Now, one caution: this option may not suit every situation, because when you put a plastic ring around this, it means that the positive side on the edges doesn't make contact anymore. So if you have a chamber which uses the perimeter as a contact point rather than the base as a contact point, then that solution doesn't suit, but it will suit many situations. Now, let's say you cannot find a ready-made adapter to suit that battery, to make it that size, too hard to get, and you cannot find a washer to do the same job at your hardware store. No problem. While you're there, get yourself some masking tape as thick as possible. Then use scissors to cut a strip the same thickness as the smaller battery, something like this. Then you wrap it around the smaller battery until it becomes the thickness of the bigger battery. Easily done. Just make sure as you wrap it around, you don't cover the edge of the positive side. As you wrap it around, just go a little bit beyond the positive side edge. As you wrap it around, make sure that the positive side is not covered at all by the tape that can make contact with a point in the chamber. Option 3. Get a ready-made adapter. People, of course, have thought of this problem, and they've made these very cheap brass adapters. You can get those by the dozen, very cheap. And drop one of these LR44s, that's one, like this, and it becomes exactly the right size. If I just put this next to that, it's exactly the right size, front and back. Of course, this still leaves the problem of the voltage, which you have to deal with by doing some mental calculations, 1 or 2 f-stops more. Okay, so this is another option, ready-made brass adapter. You order those online, eBay, AliExpress, and so on. Option 4. Get one of these particularly engineered batteries for this purpose. They're called Wein cell, 1.35 volts, which is exactly the right voltage. They come usually in these single packages, and they're very expensive, but they are not only made to look exactly like the original PX625, but they're exactly the right voltage as well. That's the positive side, which is this side. Now, we've discovered a little problem with these, but although everything seems fine, the size is right, voltage is exactly right, somehow they've adapted something to make this, and it has this little nodule added to it, probably to increase the height. It's welded on, and some device chambers don't like this, because that's not the way they make the contact. They make the contact in a way that this is in the way, and it doesn't work. So in some devices it works, in some devices that use a different mechanism for making the contact, they just didn't work. So we have a few of these handy just in case it does. Here's another one from Sixstar, a very nice vintage light meter. This one has a chamber in plastic over here, so it must have a different mechanism. Quarter turn rather than a screw, opens up. It has a side connection rather than a lid connection. So there's a connection at the bottom, which you can see is not exactly in the center. It's on the sides and still good enough to make contact. And then there's a side connection over here that tries to capture the ring around, which is part of the positive side. You can see how they vary. So if the battery is not exactly the right shape and the contact points are not available, then this doesn't work. For example, with this one, the Wein cell battery replacement does not work. Option 5. As far as adapters go, this adapter may well be the ultimate. This beautiful adapter is made in Japan, and as far as I know, there's only one manufacturer available online. Now this takes an LR44, which is a very common battery. You can get it very easily online or from camera stores. You drop one of those into there and it's exactly the right shape for PX625. So what does it say MR9? Because different manufacturers give different names to the same kind of battery, so PX625 equals PX13 equals MR9. So as far as we're concerned, we're talking about PX625, the same thing. So this battery goes in there and it turns into something that looks very similar to PX625. Why do we say this is the ultimate solution? It not only gives the right size, it changes the voltage from 1.5 to 1.35, because inside of that beautiful ring there's some electronics that reduce the voltage. So LR44 has all the advantages of alkaline battery, very good power supply for a long time. In fact, in terms of battery supply, is much better than 675, which lasts much shorter time. They last forever. And this changes the voltage and the size. What's the downside? None, except it's very expensive. As long as you can afford it, that's the ultimate solution. And get them before they run out, because there's only one manufacturer in Japan. They come with a helpful guide here in Japanese. I'm sure you all read fluent Japanese. If not, I'll read it to you. Put that inside there and put inside the camera. Easy. What do these two cameras have in common? Canon AE1 and Minox 35PL. Beautiful piece of miniaturization. The common thing is that they both want to use a battery called 4LR44. You can't get it in supermarkets or camera stores anymore. You can order it online, and if you're really lucky, you might find some. If you find them, they'll probably come in packets like this from China or Hong Kong. If you find them, get them. Get a whole bag full of them. That might be your last chance. Amazingly, they've also been rebadged by you-know-who. Obviously, Kodak is not in battery business, so this is rebadged from somewhere, because some of their cameras also used 4LR44. But you have to find a real-life Kodak store, like Kodak Express, to buy these. They're 6 volts. So option 1, get these batteries. In the case of Canon, they go into this little chamber over here that you should be very careful to open. Don't force it, just have to press this little thing in, little plastic delicate thing, and it opens up. And LR44, 4LR44 is in there. In the case of Minox, you twist this thing open and it's inside that chamber, which I'll show you in a minute. It goes all the way to the bottom. One solution to getting 4LR44 is to read between the lines. 4 times LR44, 6 volts. So we get 4 times LR44, which is extremely common. You can buy them anywhere and put them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and put the sticky tape around them and use those. Let's have a look at this. This Minox. Let's open this chamber. You think that's a ready-made battery? No. is 4 times LR44s with some masking tape around them. It's a homemade 4 LR44, literally 4 times LR44. Okay, works. But there's a tiny little problem with some cameras. Let's put together 4 of those LR44s to make up one of those. This is a bit of masking tape, anything can be used, anything sticky. So we'll put those together, end to end. So here in a few seconds we have a battery, but problem statement is a little bit short in length. The voltage is right, the type is right, a little bit short. We need to make it up. Option number 1, a little ball made out of aluminum foil from the kitchen. Make a little ball and have it on this side, which is the positive side, because the positive side goes right to the edge. Don't put it on the negative side because that much short between the center bit, which is negative, and the perimeter, which is positive. So put it on this side, a little ball, that will work. Option number 2. Option 2 is already implemented in this Canon AE1. This is a different Canon AE1. Can you tell? Different cap. So let's open this one up. This, by the way, is a wooden skewer from the kitchen. Doesn't scratch anything. So we take the battery out from its chamber. And we find that it has been packed out by 4 washers. You can buy these washers by the bag full from the hardware store. So these are the LR44s with the tape around them, just like this one, with 4 of those washers, usually maybe 3 depending on your chamber. Does the job. Is a conductive, and you put them on the positive side again. You don't want those to create a short between the negative and positive. Positive side goes right to the edge, so there's no problem. Make sure the tape is slightly short of the base so that these make proper contact. So the way to do it is, once you create your own battery, you put it in, on this occasion the positive side to the left. Now it's sloshing around, it's too loose. Put 3 of those washers in. They just drop in, no tension, no problem. The last one is going to give it the tension, so that one needs to go in with a bit of force. Oops. There. So now it's perfectly good. Close the chamber. When you press this inside the viewfinder, the meter goes to the middle and indicates that the battery is good. So that's perfect. Neat solution, right? Your own battery. For Yashica Electro 35, we need the PX32, another battery that you can't find anymore. It's a large battery. Where does that fit into this? At the bottom there's this chamber, which is partially open now, so I can show it to you quickly. And it goes right through. There it is. It's quite a large battery. Okay, so what do we do with this one? You can ported these adapters for PX32 to 4LR44. So if you one way or another solve your problem with 4LR44, as we saw before, you put one of those inside a plastic adapter and that does the job. How does it work? Here's the plastic adapter. It's really nothing. It's a bit of a metal end and there's a bit of a packer in there, and you put one of those in there with a like this. It's done. You don't even have to fix it to anything. That goes inside the chamber and works. 6 volts as is required. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is another kind of adapter that uses the cheaper solution, the 675 batteries. Remember those? Zinc air. These are hearing aid batteries. And if you put them together, they're a little bit shorter than 4LR44. So this adapter has been set exactly for this purpose. So it solves a bigger problem. You may not be able to get 4LR44, but you can certainly get these hearing aid batteries quite readily. One more advantage of this is that these 675s are exactly the same size as LR44s. Earlier on, we made a battery out of 4 of these LR44s. So these 4 are exactly like 4 of those. So these 4 times LR44s also go into the same adapter. And this adapter will adjust the length to what is required. Another option is do it yourself. Here's the homemade version. Get yourself a plastic tube. Now this tube comes out of those lip balm things that you get from chemist stores, pharmacy stores, supermarkets and so on. For sometimes they're called chapstick. They're exactly the right diameter. Amazingly, just cut the top off to the right length and stick in there your own homemade 4LR44, that is 4 times LR44. You stick them in there. You can see inside 4 of those, which is basically like our homemade battery, 4 of those there. And then you need a packer there to create another end to it. For that, you go to the hardware store and get a metal bolt and a nut and a couple of washers. So all you have to do is to drop this in there and it's done. Now you can adjust the exact length of it until this pops out of the end of it a little bit to make contact by unscrewing in and out until it's perfectly right. This did not require any cutting at all. This rubber band here is after the adjustment. Put a rubber band around it so it doesn't begin to loosen up after a while. That does the job. Even better than that is after it's perfectly adjusted for the length, just drop one drop of super glue in that hole in there. It will basically tie this to that, and another drop between bolt and the nut, and it's perfectly fixed to the exact right length. So you have your homemade battery working with LR44. So far we've managed to solve multiple problems with LR44s. So let's try our homemade battery with this Yashica Electro 35. This is the positive side. Positive is up, goes in there. The cap goes in there, presses it in. In this particular model, when you press this red button, green light indicates the battery is perfectly good. So our homemade battery, equivalent to PX32, works perfectly. Your beautiful Yashica Electro 35 has been saved. Sometimes you find a camera needs a battery that cannot be found anywhere at all. Weird shape, sometimes pre-welded. For example, some of the point-and-shoot cameras from Olympus. For those, you find that what you have to do is to get one of these, and you can tell from the shape of those that inside there are two round batteries. So you use very fine pliers and you remove that plastic shell. You have to almost destroy it, and inside you find two batteries that will suit those point-and-shoot cameras. That's another trick, that the real thing is sitting inside of those. When we find the right battery, for example the replacement for PX625, we buy them by the dozen, so that we're guaranteed to have some in case they stop the production of these eventually. If you go to those cheap $2 stores, every city, every country has them, even Daiso and so on, they sell you these things for nothing. Assorted batteries. I guess they're made in China. There's every size used for batteries, cameras and so on. Very generic. And you're bound to have the right type somewhere there. At least the right voltage, the right thickness and so on. You can make them work inside your camera using an adapter or a ring around it or a sticky tape or even a bit of aluminium foil. So you can get several of these. You'll never be stuck. And look at the price. Hardly $4 for all of that. So far we've been talking about mass-produced batteries which you can use in many devices. Manufacturers made these, and devices were made to suit exactly that battery or that or that or that. What about another scenario where there's a battery made just for one or two product lines, the custom-made batteries for those products? What if they don't work anymore? Here's an example. Beautiful Rolleiflex SLX, an amazing camera for its time, easily as innovative in a fundamental way as Hasselblad V series. One day we'll do a video on this one. So what's the problem? It comes with a battery that only suits this line of cameras. I mean, who else makes a battery looking like this? So how is this made? Inside of this rectangular box there are lots of little batteries, and after they expire, after say 30 years, you're stuck. The solution to this is that you search online, and there are people around the world that will take this, open it up, and replace the little batteries inside it which are welded or soldered, and give it back to you. And that's the exact situation with this battery and this camera. This battery case has been sent over to the United States. Apparently there's another place in Holland, and the batteries inside of it have been replaced, and now it'll work for another 20 or so years. Let's test this. Works. Beautiful. So you never give up on these. Don't throw them away. Don't use them as paperweight. They can be fixed. And after you use it, of course, you take the battery out and store it separately. Option number 2 for this kind of situation. Let's say you don't even have this, or this is damaged in a fundamental way. People replicate those with 3D printed batteries, such as this, and this uses a completely different battery. These batteries run in that direction, and there's 3 of them, and they give the same voltage as that. It even has its fuse, connection points and so on, so it replicates in every way what that other battery was supposed to do. That's 3D printed. So people replicate these, and you can get them online. Just search for replicated batteries and they will work. Now when you replicate a battery, its charger usually won't work. This came with a particular charger that cannot be used for a different battery type. So these usually come with their own charger. So this comes with the charger, and there's a charging point over here. So this also works in the same camera, and it looks quite acceptable too. So this is the visible part. This is the visible part of this one. Okay, no harm done. It just has a charging point there. That's another option. If you have a valuable camera, a beautiful camera like that Rolleiflex SLX, get yourself these solutions before it's too late and people stop making them. That person who's refurbishing these will eventually retire, and this solution will die with it. Now let's say you have a device like a point and shoot camera, like those digital cameras that used to be everywhere, and old crazy Nokia phones and Sony Ericssons and so on, with these kinds of batteries. You remember these? They were everywhere. Those were the days you could actually change the battery, and they came in all sorts of shapes and sizes, like different species of animals, you know, all sorts of, and not one fitted into another one, and eventually they die. They don't work anymore. So what you're supposed to do? Okay, option one, universal option, you go to AliExpress, and there's somebody in China who's making one similar to it, and you buy it. But not always. That solves about 75% of your problems. Somebody is making a replica of any battery type you want. You read the label on the battery that you want, and you search in AliExpress, and okay, you buy that. But when that doesn't work, the solution is this. You get the original battery, the dead battery, and you remove this cover, this paper cover, and you find that underneath that there's a plastic casing. Then use very fine pliers and scalpel, and you begin to remove that casing, but don't touch the head of it where these contact points are. Don't touch that part. Just try to remove the rest of the plastic. You remove all of that and keep the end of it. You find that from the positive and negative there are two little cables coming out. The rest of it is something that might look like this. This one is an old one, is bloated, means that it's dead. It will be like this. Then you go online and you search for lithium polymer batteries of the same voltage and approximate size. And these things, again, like species of animals, come in all sorts of shapes, sizes, thickness, length, width, and so on. There are thousands of these, and when you search for them on the websites, they have ways of searching for exactly the right length, width, thickness, and voltage. You will find something very similar to the original one. So what you do is you find the right one and you solder those two to the right ends of the cable that runs to those, and hopefully it's exactly the right size. That this doesn't happen to be the right size, maybe that one is the right size, and you put that inside. Okay, then you have to restore the casing. If you've done an amazing job, for example, if you've managed to just cut open the bottom of this and you fish out the original lithium polymer, this will fit right inside of it, and you can restore it very well, put it inside, and it should work. Another technique to use is to remove the bottom of it and then make a cut on this side and that side, and you remove just one side of this face. Remove it. It's a very thin plastic. Then the lithium polymer will come out. You cut the cable and you put this instead. If that originally had some kind of a power management chip, like this kind of thing, you leave it there. You connect after the power management, otherwise just connect it anyway. So you find that sometimes it will work. The battery is restored. You've put a new lithium polymer inside the casing of the original battery. So you've repaired it from inside. But you find that your camera or your mobile phone will not charge it. No matter what you do, it won't charge. Solution to that is a universal charger. You order yourself one of these universal chargers. This costs almost nothing. Maybe $5, something like that, from various suppliers in China. Again, AliExpress will do. And you put your new battery in there, adjust these sliders to reach the positive or negative. It doesn't matter which one is which, they will detect and switch the voltage. And then press it in. This is spring loaded, so it holds it in place. You plug it in. This will show the charge, and this will charge your battery no matter what brand it is. So see, all of this box full of different species of batteries of every kind there is, thicknesses, sizes, and so on. And these can all be refurbished with this kind of lithium polymer stuck inside them and charged with a universal charger. So again, don't worry about losing the original charger of your device. Don't worry about the device not charging because it detects that it's not original, it's not the right exact voltage and so on. You just charge it with this. Okay? That's yet another way not to give up. Here's another box full of these that we use for repairing batteries. In short, message is this: no matter what, you will not give up. Don't throw away those old devices. Say, oh, the battery is gone, so I better throw it away. There's no way to repair this thing. There's always a way to do it. And ultimately, if you don't want to go through the bother, send it to us. Or let us know. We'll organize to pick it up. We'll do it. We'll put it into the Tech Heritage Museum in your name and do a video like this on how it was repaired. Okay, so that's our video and lesson on how to deal with batteries that are hard to get, hard to refurbish, and multiple options for doing it yourself. Hope that was useful. Look forward to your comments.